For the next hour, you're listening to the Classic Auto Mall podcast, broadcast from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Classic Auto Mall is a world-class facility conveniently located just an hour west of Philadelphia on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. The building is over 336,000 square feet and is full of over 650 classics for sale and 300 barn finds on display. Check out all the inventory on the website, classicautomall.com. If you have any questions for our host or guest, email us at podcast@classicautomall.com. Now on to the show with our host, the president of Classic Auto Mall, Stewart Howden.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning. And they're rolling in another Saturday morning, show number 26 we've done here.
Excellent.
That's hard to believe. Well, actually, that's a misnomer. Because we've actually only done like 20 shows because we've done a few repeats because some of us can't show up on time to work or something. I don't know. But nonetheless, we're show number 26, and we're actually recording this on, March the 5th. 2022, whenever you may be listening to it on a podcast or a delayed feed or on YouTube on our channel and all of our other channels. Speaking of our channels, our TikTok channel, what the heck?
Unbelievable. Yeah, we're closing in on 100,000 views on just 2 videos. So if you're not on TikTok following us on there, come see what the fun is about. We have some excellent stuff going on there.
Yeah, it's amazing. We did a segment on the AMC Gremlin that we have here and has 50,000 plus views. It's probably 60,000 now.
Yeah, and I kind of knew that the Gremlin touched people. Like a lot of people have memories of the Gremlin and strong opinions one way or another, and they express them on there. But I didn't anticipate. And again, it's all about my friend Al. You know, right. Al Go Rhythm.
Yeah. Mr. Go Rhythm.
You never know when he's going to show up, and he showed up in force. We were getting 1,000 views per minute on Monday, and it's just been a heck of a ride.
Well, we've had that happen a few times with our Facebook account. You know, we put our drone footage video, which is becoming semi-infamous, world-famous, if you will, showing drone footage through our whole facility, our 336,000 square foot building here in beautiful, sunny downtown Morgantown, PA. What a great week we've had business-wise. My goodness, we've been just slammed. Selling cars left and right. The market is on fire. We see that not only with our business, but with auction houses and other dealers that we know in the business, just watching what they're doing. And it's unprecedented, I guess. And, you know, with inflation, the highest it's ever been, gas prices through the roof, who's buying classic cars? Everybody. It's staggering. So thank you for all those consumers who continue to do what you're supposed to do as a consumer and buy a lot of stuff that you don't need. I think everybody needs a classic car, though.
100%.
It's therapeutic. It's good for the soul. And we will mention every time, because we're so proud to have it, is our friend Pat Travers, who allowed us to use his song Offbeat Ride that you hear at the beginning and the end of our show, or who will be in Sellersville, PA. We keep talking about this coming up September. Find somebody who can host this, Steve. March the 13th, which is a Sunday night, the Sellersville Theater. Go see him if you get a chance. Great show, great guitarist, and thank you so much to him and his manager for allowing us to use the song. And I will continue to say that because I'm proud of it, number one, because it's something I listened to when I was 15 years old. And it's just cool that we got something other than some canned music, which, you know, is okay if you're into that kind of thing.
Right.
Speaking of music, I don't know if this is not a segue, but don't forget to sign up for our newsletter on our website, classicautomall.com. And you can sign up for our newsletter. We send it out once a month. We don't bombard you like some people do. We send it out once a month, and we tell you updates about what's going on here, events we're going to, that kind of thing. New inventory that's coming in, so on and so forth. And we've got some great cars in the past couple of weeks. We got an amazing barn find 69 Corvette coupe. It's a 454 numbers matching, turbo hydromatic 400, which is surprising on a 454 Corvette. You would think it would be a 4-speed car, but there was quite a few automatics back in the day. Mm-hmm. Not everybody wanted to shift.
That's right.
And candidly, you know, if you take a 4-speed car from the late 60s with the wrong rear end ratio, 60 miles an hour is going to feel like you're about to explode.
That's right.
It's up
there.
So, but anyway, this car is really cool. It's blue. It's got an original interior. Another great car we took in, a 60 Plymouth Fury convertible. And I thought, I haven't seen one of those in years. And our friends at the AACA, our next door neighbors at the Philly Auto Show, which we'll touch on in a little bit, have a 60 Plymouth Fury convertible. So
no kidding.
Yeah. So good thing we didn't take ours. So
2 out of how many?
I don't know. Not very many.
Right.
This one's got the 440, 375 horse, fully documented example. Got all its original metal. And an amazing car. We also got in a 79 Chevrolet Malibu Classic. And you say, okay, what's the deal with that? Why is that? Well, this one's got 43,000 original miles. It's unmolested. It's got the 305 in it, so it's extremely fast. Yeah. It's got the 305, and it's rust-free. And this is just an honest. Have you seen this car? It's
Not only did I see it, we did a feature with Alyssa because I picked it out, and we're going to load that TikTok eventually with Alyssa featuring this Malibu. It's a time machine. It's a time warp. It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. And it comes from one of our really good consigners who brings us just these cars that you just go, where did you find this? Or trucks that he finds that have 22,000 original miles on them, and they're all unmolested and just original and the way you like to see cars. Lots of documentation. And
there simply cannot be that many 79 Malibu Classics in this kind of condition in the country.
Absolutely not. Because let's face it, in the late 70s, the auto industry and quality were not going hand in hand. They were just churning them out. Paint was suspect, undercarriage. They covered with rust proofing.
They did make good Trans Ams that year. That's I will say that.
If you got the right motor. Because we do talk about a Trans Am. We also got a 70 Olds 442 W30, which I think is already sold, or we already have a deposit on. Original drivetrain, 455, 370 horse also. It's got the turbo hydromatic 400. 12-bolt rear, and it has its build sheet. We talked about that last show about build sheets and what they are and how they ended up in cars. They weren't supposed to. They weren't required to be. They just stuffed them there because otherwise they'd have to have a dumpster every day to get rid of all the build sheets. And thank goodness they put them in a lot of them. Of course, a lot of them is, it's great to feel up under a seat and feel that there's paper, there's something under there, and it's usually the build sheet up under the foam of the seat. A lot of times, though, it's in suspect condition at best.
A lot of times you reach under there and there's a mouse, so be careful. Or a snake, depending on where you live.
Those dangerous mice.
They tear those things up too, don't they? They tear the build sheets.
They do. Yeah. They absolutely do. And they'll eat through wiring, and they'll get caught in your air conditioning vents and whatever else they do. So this Olds 442 W30, though, is an amazing car. Check it out on our website. A 32 Plymouth PB Sport Roadster. Now, you see Fords and Chevys from 1932, but you don't see many Plymouths. There's not a whole lot of them. And this one drives great. Very rare example. It's got a 4-cylinder engine. It's just one of those reliable cars that's easy to work on. And as we talked about last week, the death of the Model A is grossly exaggerated. People are still buying Model A's and 4-cylinder cars from the late 20s, early 30s. And hallelujah, I'm glad that they are, because it's a good way to get in the hobby, and it's a good way to learn about antique cars, which is, people don't even know what that means anymore. You say an antique car because it's special interest or collector car or whatever. But anyway, check out the 32 Plymouth that we've got, and then the beautiful 41 Mercury 8 convertible. That's a former museum car, AACA winner, a meticulous restoration, leather interior, beautiful blue color. A 41 Mercury convertible. I mean, that's class.
Land yacht.
Yes, it is a land yacht. So, we talk a lot about here barn finds. What's a barn find? Is it a car that was found in a barn? Well, sometimes it is. It also can be just in a building. It can be stored away in a garage. It's basically a car that hasn't been touched, used, done anything with for a period of time. I don't know if there's a length of time that counts that collectively says that it's a barn find, but it's one that has just sat for years and years and years and years. A guy put it in the garage and kind of forgot about it, or just didn't have time to deal with it. So we have a lot of barn finds here. I mean, a whole lot of barn finds here that my partner collected over the years, but we also sell barn finds. And it's funny because barn finds sometimes bring almost as much money as a restored, perfectly beautiful, shiny car.
It could start as a project, or people like the patina now. So they're kind of clear coating patina, and that's kind of a trend. And there's a lot of plenty of cars here.
you can fit every category that you're looking for. If you want something that doesn't run, has no motor, rusty, we have it.
Leaks.
We have that, and then we have the shiny, beautiful, perfect cars as well too. So there's a little bit of everything here. But the barn finds are interesting because it is a preservation of the history of the automobile. And as we talked about again last week, the automobile played such a role in everything that we did in our lives. Whether it was a birth of a baby, it's getting married, getting whatever, everything revolved around the car. And so it's interesting that some of these cars were parked in these barns or sheds or fields. My partners pulled cars out of fields that had a foot wide tree trunk going through the center.
Right. And I wouldn't restore any of the things that your partners found because every scratch tells a story, every bit of rust. There's so much depth to some of the 400 antiques we have on display here. It's amazing.
Absolutely. And it really does show you what these cars look like. They're preserved in their state that they were found. Now, the found state could be all solid and just some faded paint, or it could be no paint on it and a little bit of rust, or it could be a lot of rust, but it's just something. We have a 1915 Packard dually truck. Do not do anything to that because go find another one. Impossible to find another one. So if you get a chance, check out the barn finds. And when we return, we've got a special guest, lifelong auto enthusiast Bobb Rayner, who is going to be with us, and we're going to talk about car shows and Italian cars and all that cool stuff. So we'll catch you when we come back. Yeah, so our 26th show. We've learned a lot about this business in doing this. We always wanted to do a podcast or a radio show or something of that nature, but business gets in the way, and you've got,
Tell me about it.
We still have to, we have to sell cars, and we have to consign cars, and we have to make sure that we're doing everything we're doing. But we thought, what a perfect opportunity to put a studio right here in the front of our building. And what the cool thing about it is that people are as much impressed with the fact that we have a studio than they are with the show.
I was the first time I ever walked in this building.
Sure.
That's where my eyes went, to the left and where the studio is.
Isn't that amazing?
Because I spent most of my working career in radio and television. So when I see microphones and lights and everything, I immediately am drawn to it. And it is an impressive studio.
Well, we thought that it was something that would be a benefit to us in the long run, but it would also something we just have fun. And we get to meet people and talk to people, and clubs like you're involved with. You all had your meeting here last week.
Yeah,
with the
last weekend.
Yeah, the Fiat Club.
Second one here.
Oh, that's right. So that's the cool thing about Classic Automall is we allow car clubs and groups and get-togethers, if you will, car related, to be here and to be here for free. And listen, does it benefit our business? Of course it does.
Of course it does, and I don't. And who would disparage you from benefiting from it? It's a mutual. One hand washes the other.
It's a win-win for us, and it's cool because, it's nice to have people that are like-minded together. Whether you buy a car from us or not, it really doesn't matter. Like we were talking about being on TikTok. That's a younger crowd. It's skewed to a younger crowd. However, the younger crowd has parents that have classic cars, or they have older friends that have classic cars, or same with the busload of senior citizens that come here. They all have nephews and whatever.
Sure.
So you were involved heavily with the Fiat Club of America. You were the founder of that, I guess.
Indeed.
And so tell us about when that started and how that.
I've told this story countless times in the last 4 decades. Oh, boy. I mean, to go back to the real beginnings of it, I had, when I was a young kid,
right.
All right, it's 16, 17, 18 years old. I had whatever car I could afford. I think I had a Subaru FF1. My first car was an MGB.
Nice.
Robin's Egg Blue MGB. I'll never forget it. I paid $600 for it, blah, blah, blah. Then I went to a Subaru because I needed some practicality. And again, I was in junior college. I was 18, 19 years of age.
What area of the world?
Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm a native of northeastern Pennsylvania.
Sure.
A coal cracker, sometimes they...
A what?
Coal cracker, because it's the coal region. You never heard that term before?
I'm from the South. I've never heard anything.
Oh, wait.
I've heard we're fixing to go to dinner. That's all
Anyway,
I've heard.
there was. I was starting to work, make a little money when I got out of school, and I wanted a BMW 2002 so bad I could taste it. I wanted a burgundy sunroof BMW 2002 back then. I actually found one. I had work to do that day, and at the end of that work day, I went to the. This is a weird story. I went to the car dealer. It was a used car dealer out in Scranton, Pennsylvania area. I went to put a deposit on one I had seen the day before. It was the car of my dreams.
Right.
As I was parking the car, I saw another fellow parking his car across the street. 30 seconds ahead of me, he was in that door and put a deposit down on that car that I was going in there to do it. I was heartbroken.
Have to be.
It was a Memorial Day weekend, so I was at my parents' house in Clark Summit, Pennsylvania, and I went on a bicycle ride, and I saw at Chrysler Plymouth dealer this forlorn-looking left front flat tire Fiat X19. I thought, oh, that's a cool car. I think I've seen these before.
Sure.
I was driving a Fiat 128 at the time. I went from a Subaru to a Fiat 128 sedan, which I really loved. So I start crawling over this car, and it was open. The next day, that was Memorial Day weekend. So the Monday or Tuesday after Memorial Day weekend, I went, looked at the car, bought it. I thought, this is so cool, so unusual, so different. And that started it all.
A life-changing moment.
It literally was. And because of that, I started to get super enthusiastic. This is, by the way, before the internet, before emails, before any of what we have now, including podcasts. So I started seeking out people. But how do you do that without emails, internet, all that stuff, blah, blah,
You
blah.
buy a mailing list, right?
One of the magazines, and I got them all as a kid, Car and Driver,
Sure, me too.
Road and Track, Motor Trend, Hot Rod. I got them all. And they had classified ads in the back, and I saw something, I think it was Road and Track, and Fiat Club of America. Well, so I wrote to it because you couldn't email it. There was no website.
Stamps were a nickel.
Yeah. And the gentleman who ran it, I kid you not, his name was Santo J. Bimbo.
No, it wasn't.
I
dated a girl named
I have books filled with newsletters published by Santo J. Bimbo. Well, anyway, long story short, it really wasn't much more than a correspondence club, and not a really good one at that. Photocopied on regular paper and sent out,
or mimeographed, as we like to.
Well, I was going to use that term.
See,
but
I didn't want to confuse our listeners.
I wasn't sure you would know that.
Thank you.
Anyway,
for referencing to me to be young.
And after being I said, well, can I write something for the magazine? His newsletter. Well, sure. And I did, and I titled the article "The Fiat Freak." Well, that lasted to me. Well, I was a member till the club dissolved.
Right.
But they didn't do anything. It was strictly a correspondence club. And once a year, they had some big party in Santo J. Bimbo's kitchen, literally, because they could. It was like the laws of incorporation annual meeting or whatever.
Yeah, you have to.
And I said to myself, well, that's nice, but I don't want to read letters. I want to turn wrenches and rub elbows with fellow enthusiasts. So I wrote to him. I'm trying to make this condense this as quickly as I can. So I wrote to him and I said, being motivated like it was, I said, can I have the mailing? Can you give me the names and addresses of the people in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York State, the three contiguous states near northeastern PA, because I knew Oscar Kovaleski, a name with whom you may be familiar, who was just passed away not that long ago, but from Scranton, and he used to run a business that was world famous called Auto World, where they sold slot racing cars and all that stuff. But
lots of stuff from them.
He was a racer in and of himself. In fact, I went to high school with his son. Anyway, so I wrote to Oscar, and he actually took the SCCA double nationals that were held at Pocono once a year, Pocono International Raceway. Right. And I said, Oscar, he tried to make it a spectator event by selling tickets and everything. I said, Oscar, can you sell me a bunch of discount tickets, and I'll try to get my a bunch of car people together. They're Fiat Lancia Italian car people. So I did. And a friend of mine named Dwight Barnes lived in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We met one day. Didn't even know we had to all. By the way, all this correspondence by snail mail.
Right. So you've never seen anybody in person. Don't know what they look like.
No.
Could be standing next to him at the grocery store.
So I met him, and I said, I'll meet you at the food cart at the Park City Mall in Lancaster, because I was living in York, Pennsylvania by this time. And I said, you want to try to put something together? He said, yeah. We got up there. We talked about it. I said, I can get discount tickets for this, blah, 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 blah. So we did. And I was working for a television station at the time in York, Pennsylvania. And we we met in the construction trailer up there. And out of our own pockets, we bought envelopes, paper, postage stamps. I hijacked the photocopying machine at the television station.
Mimeograph.
And we hand typed, and I got some pictures of cars and cut them out and hand typed, did a layout and photocopied a flyer, if you will, and hand stamped them, licked the stamps. This was before self-adhesive stamps, and sent them out to all these names that Santo J. Bimbo.
Right.
We got 12 people to show up. 12 cars and
how many did you send out?
Probably 13. I mean, because the club wasn't that.
So the ratio was good.
Well, I can't remember that, but the club was just there. But anyway, from that, in July of 1983, was the third weekend in July 1983. From that, I sit here today, almost 40 years of this club being in existence. But, and this is the underscore, 3 months before that event, Fiat announced they were pulling out of North America.
And that would have been 1982.
March of 1983. They said we're taking Lancia, we're leaving North America.
And they left for how many years?
25 exactly.
Wow.
So for this club was actually started. We didn't even call the event the Fiat Freakout that we do now, and that because I was writing my article, the Fiat Freak, so the Fiat Freakout. And so just to underscore that, 3 months prior to that, March of 83, they said, we're leaving North America. And for a quarter century, they were gone. Despite that, this club has grown and grown and grown and prospered to become the biggest of its kind in North America, if not the world.
Sure.
Our annual Fiat Freakout will celebrate. We're going to Texas this year. I think it's our 40th anniversary. Might be 39th. I've lost track.
I hear you.
But I've been there since day one, and I think, Stuart, if there's a takeaway from this, is that the people were so for real car enthusiasts,
right?
For real, that they could maintain and exist for 4 decades
without a manufacturer,
without a 25 years of which there was no manufacturer. Right. Yet it grew and grew and grew and grew, and see, that's putting where, if you will, the cliche, putting money where your mouth is.
Sure.
These people were real enthusiasts. You couldn't buy one if you wanted one, no factory support, but we kept our cars going and growing and establishing incredible personal relationships.
Does Fiat recognize the club now, and is that beyond the scope of what?
No, very much so. In fact, very much so. When they returned, well, they didn't all those years.
Right,
those 25 years when they were gone.
That's a long way across the pond to look at.
Although God knows we tried to get them.
Sure, you did. Of course.
And they knew of our existence, but that was the end of it. When Fiat returned to North America in 2012, and we could do a whole show just on what that has been like. You know, it's been fabulous and then not so good.
Yeah.
But they actually, yes, they recognized us very, very much. The CEO at the time, the first one, came to our annual Fiat Freakout. In fact, when the Fiat 500 was introduced in the U.S., that night at our awards banquet, she offered the first batch of 500s exclusively to the club.
That's a fantastic story, which we will continue with when we return with Bobb Rayner, our Fiat Club aficionado freak, if you will, and car show enthusiast and car enthusiasts all together. And we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
It's back, or they were back after 25-year absence.
Technically, they are back, but they're a smattering of
And that may change yet again.
Well, you never know. I mean,
No.
somebody may scoop them up.
Actually, the now CEO of Stellantis, are you familiar with that? That Fiat Chrysler Automobiles was
Right.
changed hands or reorganized yet again, and now it's Stellantis.
Well, that makes sense.
Stellantis makes Dodge, Chrysler.
Gotcha.
You know.
Oh, yeah,
Ram.
yeah. That's the company that's that-
Stellantis.
Yeah, I never
well,
even thought about
he has
that.
publicly stated in interviews that do not count the Fiat brand out yet.
And you drive a later model Fiat, don't you? You just drove one up today. Didn't
Yes,
you?
I did.
The
A
500?
500 Abarth, and I've had two.
Right.
And I told you during the break, I have not been without a Fiat vehicle, at least one,
Right.
for over 4 decades. And, sometimes 5 or 6 at one time I've had
Bless
on
your
my
heart,
property.
as my
So-
grandmother used to say. They can be tricky because of parts availability. Because
Never
of
had
lot
a
of
problem
things.
with that my entire life.
No kidding.
Never once. But I will tell you that's because of our wonderful club. When you
got a
get
great
people
network.
who are rubbing elbows with each other and says, "Oh, I have that screw," or "I have that linkage," or something
Sure.
like that. So I've never had it, and plus I have enough expertise that I honestly can't say I've ever had a Fiat in a garage. I do all my own work.
Do your own
myself.
work. But is there a part source for those? I mean,
Plenty.
So that's
Plenty.
good.
We
Yeah,
have
I
a
mean,
number of club members who import cars, who are car breakers, if you
Right,
will.
right.
That part out cars and everything. I have never, in those 40 years, even with Fiat not being here, ever had a problem with getting a piece.
Isn't
that
that
I need.
amazing? And yet there's some things that are unobtainium that are on more cars that they made more of. It's funny how certain networks like Saab and Fiat and some of these more kind of obscure type brands, if you will, especially in the U.S., they still have a great network. And because there was limited production and a limited amount of cars made, they tend to be closer knit.
That's true, but I'll just interject this sidebar here. That's true in the United States. In Philadelphia, in Europe,
Philadelphia's not the United
in Europe,
Questionable.
you have to understand that is true.
Sure.
In Europe, it's like Chevrolet.
Right.
You know,
I mean, yeah. Fiat's huge over there.
at times they were neck and neck or close to Toyota and General Motors as the world's largest automobile manufacturer.
Sure.
I mean, this is not I mean, they have factories in South America, in Eastern Europe and everything. It was only in the U.S. where the importation of the cars was limited, but
Everywhere else it was huge. Yeah.
all over the place.
Well, like Renault. I mean, you don't
Same,
see, same
yeah,
thing,
same,
same type of thing
same,
is that you
same.
don't see them hardly here at all. However, they're there. We don't see Skoda and Trabant either here. So there's that.
True.
But not only have you been involved in Fiats, you've been involved in the international auto shows.
Yes, I was.
Or the American auto shows, I should say. One of my
Oh,
favorite.
it's actually international.
International,
I've been to,
yeah.
Done shows in
Nice,
Canada
nice.
and elsewhere, other foreign.
I had a
countries.
great time in 2004, the Detroit Auto Show on Media Day, which was a great day to go because it wasn't crowded. And when I walked out of the bathroom, I'm standing side by side the captain, Roger Penske, and we talked for like 15 minutes, and he was the coolest guy ever. I
Yeah.
love guys.
Well, 15 straight years I worked that show, all the press days,
Wow.
all the industry days, and all the public days. 15 straight years. And yeah, I spent my time talking with Mark Fields of Ford,
Right.
Carroll Shelby, you name it. I was very, very blessed to be. See, I inserted myself in the inner circle. I was just a guy. I spent 7 years.
did that a couple of
I spent 7 years representing Lexus,
Right.
and 9 years for the Lincoln Mercury division of Ford.
What years were you with Lexus?
I can't even remember when I started. Now it was 80. I started the year this generation 2 of the LS 400.
So that would have been
introduced.
92, 91, 92. I had a Infinity.
Right. That was their counterpart to
Q50, and it was a 91, and I think they came out in 90. So Lexus would have been about 90 as well. So that probably was 93 or so that you were involved with.
Well, I was a product specialist / narrator. So when
Sure.
you walked into the shows and saw the people up there standing on the turntables doing the presentation and everything, well, that's what I did for
Sure.
but I was a little more than that. I didn't just memorize a script because I knew what I was talking about. When I was done with the presentation, which I tweaked and embellished in my own, I would talk to consumers. I would talk to customers. But during the press and industry shows, I spent all the time I possibly could with engineers,
Sure.
designers, marketing people, to the point where they at first didn't want to talk to me because
Right,
they thought
'cause-
I was a spy.
Oh.
But I said, look, I signed a non-disclosure agreement every year to do this job. Talk to me. Well, what ended up is I got a good reputation among the engineers, designers, and what have you, where they would tell me things that they were not supposed to tell me.
Sure.
You know,
The
about
inside-
upcoming cars or even the guts of an engine. And when I would stand next to an engine cutaway and talk up to the engineer about, well, this here pintle coming in through this injector port here, and they'd look at me like, people like to do what you do aren't supposed to know this.
about stuff like that.
And I would get their confidence is my point, because I really wanted to know, and then I used my knowledge to embellish the things that I presented in a layman's way, if you will. And then I got a good reputation, so whenever there was a concept car introduction in Detroit or Chicago, whenever there was a prototype of a upcoming vehicle, wherever, I was the guy for Lexus and then for Lincoln division.
Sure.
I was the guy that did all the product introductions, but because that time, knock on wood, I was very honored to have garnered a reputation of this guy just isn't a good presenter. He knows what he's talking about.
And a great brand ambassador for what you do. And what people don't realize
Yeah.
is the amount of money that the manufacturer spent on their displays at the Detroit Auto Show is staggering. I mean, $30 million for a
Dude.
display.
Let me tell you, of that 30 million, 2 or 3 million, and I know this because I knew the guys that did it and worked a lot. 2 or 3 million of that was just the labor cost, just to set them up.
I mean, Ferrari had this glass steps up to a second level with food and drinks and the whole thing, and it was just the carpet and everything was just spectacular. Jeep had a waterfall that spelled out Jeep as it fell down.
Yes, it was computer controlled.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it was just absolutely
I had a lot of
amazing.
friends that worked for that
Yeah.
company, used to go there and
Just
see that.
amazing. And of course, now we've got the Philly Auto Show coming up. It started today.
Yeah.
For those of you who happen to be listening in the mall and are listening today, is March the 5th. Is that right? Is today the 5th, Steve?
Yes, it
yeah,
is.
thank you.
Yes, it is.
Gosh, I need help on mundane things. The Philly Auto Show is starting a little later than normal. They usually are in late January, but they're starting a little later than normal this year, and their footprint is a little smaller because they have some other events going on down there. Us, Classic Auto Mall, and the Antique Automobile Club of America are taking that whole second floor where Mercedes and Lexus were over the past probably 10 or 15 years, or however many years they've been doing it. So, but it's a slimmed down version. Now, Jeep still has their little drive thing that they do. Have you seen that? Have you
Oh
been
yes,
to, yeah.
I've done it.
Yeah.
Off hours, you know, because I knew everybody in every
Sure.
single exhibit and all the exhibit builders and stuff. So I could spend hours before the show opened, like
Homecoming. Yeah.
messing around like that, and I did it all the time.
But you've also been involved in, well, lots of things, but some of the Concord Elegances, Radnor Hunt.
Radnor Hunt, I've been very much involved with for, I've lost count, not as long as it has been going on,
Sure.
but a good 10, 12, 15 years.
It's a great show. It
And
really
it's
is.
I will tell you, having been to Monterey and Pebble Beach on a number of occasions, it is as good. It may be on a smaller scale, but there are a lot of cars at the Radnor Hunt Concours outside of Philadelphia that came from Pebble Beach.
Sure, absolutely.
That have been shown in Pebble Beach or are on their way there. So it's as good as it can get.
And
as
it's
good
a wonderful setting at the farm and
Just.
I mean it's just amazing, and they have the horse-drawn carriages that come through and it's just well done. It's low key and laid back, but professionally run.
Oh,
Which I love.
Literally, I'm telling you, I've been to Concours and car shows or worked at them everywhere in the country, and it's as good as anything you'll find in the world, including Pebble Beach, on a bit of a smaller scale.
Sure.
So I can tell you that it was like, for example, and they have other record setters, like the first Concours d'Elegance in the country that incled motorcycles.
Right.
The
Which
first.
they're everywhere now,
Yeah.
every one of them. We were just in Boca for their Concours, and it was motorcycles were included, and a big part of, not a big part of it, but a significant part of it, if you will. And the great thing about Radnor is it's right here in our backyard.
Yes,
So
it is.
You don't have
Yeah.
to. Monterey, the hotel bill in Monterey or in Boca is not a pleasant American Express bill that you
Monterey, I mean, you can't. You probably are already
Yeah, you're too late if
you want a room in Monterey.
Absolutely.
No.
If you don't get it a year ahead.
We stayed in Salvang, which is a little farm town outside of Monterey.
In a Motel 6, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, that's not unfortunately, but it's just the nature of that type of an event. Because what people may or may not realize is that not only is there the Pebble Beach Concord, the Elegance, but there's 6 auctions, there's 10 other events, there's cruise-ins, there's car shows, there's parties,
That's
all
why
these
it's
things.
known in the auto enthusiast world as the weekend.
The weekend.
It is, because it is. It is the ultimate car weekend in the world, not just in North America, in the world.
No question. Every car guy, it's on their bucket list. If they haven't been, they want to go. And believe it or not, of all the things that I've done and been involved in, I've never been to the Monterey during that week. It always just something screws it up. I'm doing something or something's going on or just can't go. But you also did some television stuff as well too back in the day.
Yes,
didn't you?
I did. Well, I spent, I don't know how many seasons. I actually produced and hosted my own automotive television show,
Right.
which I called Auto Showcase. And it was regional in South Central Pennsylvania.
Right.
And
Focusing on new cars?
Focusing on new cars. Well, a number of my programs, I used to have a segment on something special, like a vintage car or something. But what I did was I would do new car introductions, but I would shoot them. I would do the introductions and do walkarounds, if you will, and talk about the features and all that stuff. But I would shoot it in car showrooms of my participating dealers. So they got the advantage of all this exposure.
Right.
I wasn't pitching the car per se, but the fact that I was in this Nissan dealer or this whatever dealer it was, and I always interviewed, open and close, one of their salespeople. So they got airtime as well and everything. So I did it for 7 seasons. And in television, if you get renewed even once, it's considered a success. So knock on wood, I had fun with that too.
And when we come back, we'll spin the third segment. If Bob wants to stick around for one more segment, we'll do our third segment with Bobb Rayner, our lifelong auto enthusiast.
Like a valve, I'm sticking.
We'll be back in a minute. So our 4 on the floor, which is our little trivia contest not trivia contest, it's a scavenger hunt, if you will.
Yeah.
You have to figure out what stock number, year, make, and model of the car we're talking about. Send us an email at podcast@classicautomall.com with the correct answer, stock number, year, make, and model of the car. It's a specific car that's in our inventory. Last week's winner was a 91 Lotus Elan that we had in here, which is really rare. It's a rare piece, and we took it to, it's at our display at the Philly Auto Show.
Good.
So if you get a chance to go check out the Philly Auto Show, and if you hear this show when it's aired, you have today and tomorrow to go. So it's at the end of the run. But last week's winner, the Lotus Elan, and this week's 4 on the floor, we have to give you 4 clues, and you email us with the correct answer, podcast@classicautomall.com. The 4 clues are: clue number 1, destructive rage. Okay. Clue number 2, land shark. Clue number 3, year 1 unibody. And clue number 4, older cousin is a movie star. So there's some interesting ones. So destructive rage, land shark, year 1 unibody, older cousin is a movie star. If you know the answer, podcast@classicautomall.com, and we'll send you a hat. A nice hat too, as I say. It's not just some flimsy hat. This is fancy hat. So where do we sell cars in the past 2 weeks? We weren't here last week because my wife and I were in South Florida, which, by the way, the hardware and the boats and the car and the traffic and everything is just overkill down there. It's just unbelievable.
Over the top.
Over the top. I mean, Rolls-Royce ghosts like their Toyota Camrys and Ferraris. And we stayed in these high-rise hotels, which you get the echo of the traffic. And these guys would be airing out their Ferraris at 7:30 on Sunday morning. And man, it was cool. And then we went to the Boca Concord Elegance, and it was fantastic. I'd never been to that one. We chose that one over Amelia this year. We didn't go to Amelia, which is actually this weekend right now that we're in. But the Boca Concord was fantastic. But take your sunscreen. Oh, I got burnt up like you wouldn't believe. It was unbelievable. But what a great show. Had a great time, and we'll definitely be back. I just wish it wasn't the week before Amelia, because I love going to Amelia. So with that said, we've got 2 weeks of car sales where we've sold our cars to, and that's a lot because it's a mouthful. There must be about 40-something cars on this list. So let's run down the list quickly. Marlton, New Jersey; Saratoga Springs, Utah; Irwin, Tennessee; Hazleton, Pennsylvania; Boyertown, Pennsylvania; Shoemakersville, Pennsylvania; Lansdale, Pennsylvania; Brownsville, Texas; Riverside, Connecticut; Gilbert, Arizona; Pittsburgh, New York; Edisto Island, South Carolina; Idlewild, California; Smoketown, Pennsylvania; Walling, Tennessee; New Tripoli, Pennsylvania; Wellington, Ohio; Knoxville, Tennessee; Falls Church, Virginia; Browns Mills, New Jersey; Fritch, Texas; Bridgeville, Delaware; New York, New York; Lewistown, Montana; East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania; Hatboro, Pennsylvania; Winter Park, Florida; Pottstown, Pennsylvania; Sneads Ferry, North Carolina; Malvern, Pennsylvania; Evergreen Park, Illinois; Lake Placid, New York; Wichita, Kansas; Philadelphia, Pennsylvania; Point Pleasant, New Jersey; Fayetteville, West Virginia; Griffin, Georgia; Windber, Pennsylvania; Cochranville, Pennsylvania; Massapequa Park, New York; Noblesville, Indiana; Davie, Florida; Aston, Pennsylvania; Hillsborough, New Jersey; and New York, New York.
Remember that guy used to do the commercials? He used to talk really
The
fast.
FedEx guy.
Yeah, the FedEx guy. You're almost there. You're almost there.
Really?
All of those places touched by vehicles from Morgantown, PA.
That's right.
Think about that. They all from little old Morgantown. We're selling cars, and of course, we're selling them all over the world too. I mean, we're not selling all over the world right now with all the chaos that's going on and our gas prices through the roof. And we don't get into politics around here, so we'll just keep our mouths shut about that. And, although I already brought it up, didn't I?
Well, gas prices are key to our hobby, aren't they?
They're very much so. And the fact that we have petroleum is key to our hobby as well, too. Thank God a lot of rich guys, I say this often, thank God a lot of rich guys are in our hobby. And Steve, did you see our new ad in Sports Car Market
I
Magazine?
did. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah,
I
that
have a
2-page spread.
Beautiful 2-page ad with a letter from Stuart and a beautiful photograph. And there's the staff right there on the bottom of the page, so you know who you're going to talk to.
Who you need to call. And we're visiting with our guest, Bobb Rayner, automotive aficionado, lifelong enthusiast. So you were the on-air announcer, segment co-producer for the Philadelphia Vintage Grand Prix. Now, I know
when that permutation. That one permutation of that, on the NBC affiliate KYW here locally covered it, and I was asked by the, you know how it works in the car business, in the car enthusiast world. One guy knows another guy, knows another guy, knows another guy. You know, it's very incestuous in that regard.
Sure.
And somebody said, well, here's a guy who's done his own auto television show. He should be your announcer. And the promoter at the time contacted me, and I was the on-air.
And where was this held?
Through the streets of Fairmount Park in Philadelphia. Now, it actually happened in the very early 1900s, and there was some people, including the promoter, who was very, very keen on reviving that, reproducing it, a la what they do in Pittsburgh.
I was going to say, we've all heard of the Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix, which is hugely successful.
Right. And so could the Philly one have been too. But, all the stars, and that's not to disparage anybody who tried.
Sure.
It's just that a lot of stars have to align.
With any type
Neighborhoods,
of event,
governments, budgets, investors. So it was pretty darn cool. It dismays me that it didn't really catch on and move on.
I think, Coatesville does their Grand Prix, and they're having
I've
success.
been the announcer on that every single year since it's happened, and that is just scratching the surface of what it could be.
No question. No question. I see a lot of potential with that. They have some limitations based on just the geography down there. It's hard, kind of hard to lay it out properly.
It is indeed. It's very difficult.
And road courses in people don't realize that the success of some of these, like Bristol in NASCAR racing, is because you can see the whole track. Right. In road racing or at Le Mans or at
exactly
Le Mans or Coatesville, I like to keep those in the same
There
category.
you go.
You only get to see one little segment, so you got to pick your favorite area, like at Road Atlanta, Turn 5 for us. So.
Well, let me. As fast as I can possibly say it. A buddy of mine who has since passed away, but a well-known car enthusiast, posted on a Facebook post once saying, about the Coatesville Vintage Grand Prix. And being a resident of Coatesville, I thought, he is out of his mind. But it was typical of his sense of humor, right? Typical to like Coatesville Vintage Grand Prix, And I just thought, what? He's just pulling everybody's leg, right? A day later, I'm in my optometrist office, and I look in the waiting room, and there's a poster for the Coatesville Vintage Grand Prix. I'm thinking either my optometrist is in on his joke,
right,
or this could be a real thing.
They actually made the poster.
Oh, my God. I couldn't. I said, yeah, sure, right. Well, honest to God, it was. I got asked to be the announcer, and this fall will be its 6th permutation.
Fantastic. We got involved 4 years ago, so that's been fantastic. And it's funny. I mean, a Grand Prix is a very European term.
Well, it's sort of been bastardized because Grand Prix now is used, to the non-enthusiast. It's like, it's a Grand Prix, it's a race, Well, no, as you know, the Formula One World Championship Grand Prix is really the only Grand Prix.
Speaking of that, we may be getting a new American Grand Prix team. Andretti's looking to step into the world of Formula One, which I got to think that you got to talk to Gene Haas and say, how's that working out for you?
Well,
because
it's actually gone down. They were better in their first year than they have been since.
Yeah, and the amount of money, but apparently there's a lot of money in it, even if you're the back markers. It's apparently it obviously makes it worth their while, because Haas would have been out of it a long time ago.
I would like to, in our current state of the world right now, when this is being recorded, I'd like to find out, because Haas's major sponsor is Uralkali, a big Russian trillionaire, and I've seen pictures. They've removed all the sponsorship from the car, so who knows where that's going.
Exactly. So that's some interesting news in Formula One. And then, of course, the passing of one of my hero drivers, who wasn't nearly as successful as some people might have been, but Danny Ungaius passed away, Interscope
on
racing
the gas.
legend. On the
Danny,
gas.
on
the
on
flying
the gas.
Hawaiian.
Yes,
he was. I tell you what, if he could keep it between the lines, man, he was great. I mean, he was
a legend.
He really was, and probably one of the greatest drivers who had as limited a success you can have in being a great driver. It sounds like an oxymoron, but
no, I got it.
Yeah, I used to love watching him, because when he was on, man, he was unstoppable. Didn't even realize he was still alive. He hadn't even thought about it in so many years. And but there was a nice tribute to him in Auto Week magazine last week, and other nice tributes for him. So I think he was 79 years old. So which we say is young. That's not old. And the only reason we say it is because we're all getting close to that age. So it's all the fun things we do. So tell me about your vision of what happens with Fiat and the Fiat Club and the collector car market in whole in the future.
Well,
what do you see it?
Okay, I'm an Italian car fanatic, so I'm very prejudiced.
Sure.
I mean, I live, breathe it. My mother was one of 11 Italian children, spaghetti sauce in her veins. I mean, it's something that's immersed in me. And I've said this thousands of times, and I'll say it to you here as a preface to what I'm about to do in answering your comment. And I say this every year at our big Fiat Club of America Fiat Freakout dinner banquet. I quote my favorite automotive writer of all time, David E. Davis, who was, literally the greatest auto journalist ever lived. He once said, he began an article, and I still have it. I tore it out of the magazine. I still have it. He said, the Germans invented the automobile. The Americans turned it into a disposable item, but the Italians taught it how to dance and sing. If you don't get it, it's like soul. If you don't know what it is, you don't get it.
You don't get it, and if you don't get it, then I'm not sure I want to continue talking.
Right.
To you.
So the Italians sometimes are too brilliant. They may build things so beautifully. They do. Their vehicles dance and sing that they kind of overlook the hardcore business stuff and everything of it. Here, the future of it and everything, I don't know.
We appreciate your listening to our show today, and don't forget, when you're in southeastern Pennsylvania, come visit us in person. We're open Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Wednesday is our late day, and we're here from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Saturdays we're open from 9 a.m. to noon, and we are closed on Sundays. You can reach us by telephone at 888-227-0914 or via email at info@classicautomall.com. To reach the show, email us at podcast@classicautomall.com. The Classic Auto Mall podcast is produced by Car Smarts Media. Theme song by the Pat Travers Band.